Oh, man.
Oh, ho, 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 ho. Santa Claus.
Can you move your mouth away from it?
Oh,
Like, what are you
sorry.
doing, dude?
I forgot I
Hold
was
on.
on.
Hey, Frank,
Sorry.
30 minutes tonight, right? 30 minutes.
Okay.
You said you had commitment. I had a commitment. Anyway, we could do 30.
Yeah, 30's fine.
Is that okay, Leroy?
Yeah,
Leroy, cool? All right.
yeah.
Happy New Year, Browns Nation. In the Dog Pound Poundcast with Mike Tomzak, Leroy Horde, Frank Stams, Eric Metcalf, talking Browns playoff football on alumnimedia.com. Found everywhere where you find your favorite podcast. Talking, reviewing week 17, looking forward to week 18 versus the Bengals on the road. But none of that matters. What matters is the Browns are clinched it against the Jets last Thursday night. And it's just awesome. Playoff football has come back to Cleveland. What are your guys' thoughts?
I've just been extremely impressed how mysteriously this all came together when Joe Flacco took over. And kudos to the team who, guys have made plays, defense has picked it up, and they all kind of understood what the situation was and played accordingly. So it's very impressive to see how this team, with all the adversity that they've had during the course of the year, as far as quarterbacks, injuries in the secondary, guys being out, guys being in, guys dropping balls. And I can honestly say they're playing some of their best football getting ready for the playoffs. And that's really all you can ask for.
Mike, are
That's
you
right, Leroy.
wacko for Flacco?
I know we first started out, about 6 weeks ago talking about Joe. We call him Joe Flacco, but AKA Joe, he gets to rest this week. He gets to take some time off. And I guess Jeff Driscoll is a new signee. So this is our fifth starting quarterback for the Browns, which is an anomaly in itself, right?
But right, that's what I'm saying. Like you've had a couple of organizations that have gone through a crap load of quarterbacks, and where most teams it would have been over. I mean, they're like the Minnesota Vikings went through a boatload of quarterbacks too. They got a chance to go to the playoffs. And it's just an amazing thing. And I would say this, for everything that we have said about what Kevin Stefanski can and can't do, the one thing he's always been able to do is bring the best out of his quarterback. I mean, every quarterback that came, even Brissett, had his best year as a pro.
Yeah.
Jacoby. So, maybe it wasn't what we were expecting from that position because we wanted Deshaun Watson to be able to play. But Jacoby Brissett had his best year as a pro. And it was with Kevin Stefanski.
On that quarterback topic, I'm just miffed. I don't understand. I thought it was a joke when you sent that the signing of Driscoll, Mike, to me. I just don't understand. Are the other two guys hurt or what? I mean, I understand Flacco not playing.
Is Driscoll starting though?
Correct.
He's starting.
Joe's not gonna dress.
No, I know, but they're not gonna play either of the other two guys?
Correct. Well, they'll be dressed. I don't know if DTR is going to be dressed, but you said Walker is going to be the backup, and we're going to start Driscoll, who started, I think, 12 games in his NFL career, which is rare in itself, Leroy. We were talking about that earlier. I think this game, you guys have been part of these, last games of the year. You're already in the playoffs, or you have nothing to play for, and it's one of those things where, as a player, you got to be as professional as possible. Right? You got to go out there and hone your craft and still play 60 minutes of hard football and respect the game and protect the quarterback, obviously. But more importantly, you got to go out there with some type of momentum. I mean, you got defensively, offensively, special teams. They have to do something. I know the last 2 weeks we really haven't talk much about the victory over Houston, which is a great win for them, and then the victory over last Thursday with the Jets.
It was dominance.
Leroy, you hit it right in the head. Take it from there. Dominance.
Dominance. Like they shut them down, and I don't care who you're playing against. They're pros too, right? And that defense has proven to be, a very good defense, and you did what you wanted. And so from that standpoint, I get the rest part of it, but here's the thing, Mike. Every time you play for a team, and every time you had to go in as a backup, or somebody else had to cover for somebody, there was a standard of play that was required, right? So where I know this team this week might not be as good as the teams the last 2 weeks, I'm more interested to see how they play the game. Are they still aggressive? Are they still playing, the type of football they've played the last few weeks? And if that happens, then you know for a fact that Kevin Stefanski has a grip on the team. Now, if you go, and that only happens with the starters, and then you get down that 47, 52-man roster, and these guys go in and lay an egg, now you're going to have some concerns.
Yeah, and I think you're talking about what every coach wants out of his team, and you hear it throughout the year, especially now in the playoffs, is consistency. You want your team to be playing with a consistent nature. But it's still, I ask the question, why Driscoll? Why not give some experience to DTR or
Walker?
Here's
what I would say. Here's what I would say, Frank. And we, as people who are been around the sport a long time, but who aren't insiders, and we see people sign guys, people get rid of guys, people do certain things with guys on the team, and we have questions, I would always go to this, and this would always make me feel better. They know more than me, and clearly they have a reason behind it. We're never going to know that reason. We're never going to understand it. And so we're going to comment like we are. Like, wait a minute, get DTR some reps. Get PJ Walker some reps. You might need them in the postseason for a spell.
Well, Mike,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, Mike, do you have an explanation for that, being the old veteran, experienced quarterback that you are, playing on a Super Bowl team, the Chicago Bears?
Old is right. You got that part right, Frank. Old is right. I can't comment on the other stuff. And Leroy's right to the point where, we can't really comment what's going on the inside. Obviously, something's happened with DTR. I know he was in concussion protocol about 2 weeks ago, and I don't know if they're out of favor with him and out of favor with Walker. But I'm bullish on this coaching staff, guys.
Right.
One of the best improvements that I've seen amongst the staff is how good of teachers they are and how receptive these players have become. They're united.
Yeah.
They're united.
Think about this, Mike.
Back. Yeah.
Think of the number of different offensive linemen that have played, still had success, right? Think of the different combinations in the secondary they had to come up with in the secondary when guys were out. Still had some success. Now, let's be clear, not as good with their guys in, but still had success. You gotta tip your hat to the coaching staff, what they did, what Callahan has done with that offensive line. That whole offensive line from top to bottom plays with a different attitude. End of discussion, right?
No, and I agree. I agree with you, Leroy, and Mike. I agree with you guys are saying the same thing. And if Kevin Stefanski doesn't win Coach of the Year, then that's an injustice, because what he's had to deal with, from the injured quarterback to the injured quarterbacks to the injuries on that team, all the adversity that he's had this year, and then still put together a team that's got 11 wins, and in the top, I think it was the top 5 in the power rankings of the NFL. I mean, it's just
week 18. Week 18. Yeah, right.
Nothing short
of
amazing.
Right, because where we were earlier in the year. We had a lot of questions.
Dude,
how this was going to go.
Last year.
Right, but here, can we say this? and some I believe this wholeheartedly. The attitude that the defense has played with this year has changed the attitude of that whole team. Right? Because think
Right, the
about
whole
it.
franchise. Leroy,
Right.
let's go from the whole
Right.
franchise.
Think about this.
Well, so ask yourself, why was that? And you guys know the answer to this, and this is what I'm getting. Why was that attitude changed on the defense this year?
Because of Schwartz.
Right.
How they go about business. And guess what? Now you got a competitive group on defense. Well, people don't realize when you're in camp and you're going against that defense, you better be tough. You can't be out there like a punk and get pushed around on a daily basis because your offensive coaches ain't going to allow it. So now you're playing with a different aggression on offense. Now you go play a game with that same attitude that you have had in camp, playing against that aggressive style defense. And guess what? You realize there's nobody in the league playing as aggressive as the team we played against all camp.
Right. No, I agree with you. And it goes to the saying championships are built with defense first. And this is a perfect example of that.
You know you're going to be in every game.
Let me circle back to the quarterback and what possibly might be the explanation. And what Kevin Stefanski's theme has been throughout the year, always, and really his tenure with the Cleveland Browns, is, we're going to put the guys on the field that give us the best chance to win. And I think he sees that with Driscoll. Not this week, probably, but going into the playoffs, because this week means nothing. Going into the playoffs, if something were to happen to Flacco, I see him thinking that they're going to need a quarterback with some experience there that might be able to pull it out, just like Flacco did with his experience in that first round of the playoffs.
I get what you're saying, but in no way, shape, or form am I buying that.
Well, Leroy, think about it.
You think you have a better chance with a guy who's only had 12 starts than the guys you have on the roster?
No, I agree with you. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I'm just going to add to what you guys have already been saying. I mean, it's one of those things. The decisions have been made. They have a footprint right now. I mean, for them to be in the playoffs, and seeking an opportunity to advance to the divisional championship or conference championship is really exciting for these guys. They're not going to put an innate quarterback out there that's not going to give the team the best chance to win. There's more going on internally with film study, with personnel breakdown. This Driscoll guy, I've never heard of the dude. Okay, until it came up today. Obviously, I said earlier he had 12 starts and everything, but how productive he was, I really don't know.
Right.
But the bottom line is, guys, the way the Browns ran the football against the Jets, I have to get this off my chest. The pin and pull, Leroy, the pin and pull.
I was
guards
impressed with
centers.
How about this? We were talking about last week or a couple of weeks ago that Jerome Ford is fine. He just needs to learn how to run with a little more patience and wait till he explodes. And I found that this past week, he was very patient running the football. Like, he gave things a chance to develop. He didn't just use his speed and go. He used it selectively, so it looks so much better. And I don't know. See, I came from a different place. So I played in a wishbone in college. And all my decisions were made a yard behind the quarterback. So when I went back to 7 yards, I was already patient because it was so much more room. A lot of guys that come out of college, they're told, oh, they got speed, they're burners, they could take it to the house. And that's not running back football. It's all about the making 2 yards, 4 yards, making 4 yards, 6 yards, making, a 10-yard, a 20-yarder, right? And then maybe you get your chance for that explosive play. But you can't go into the game looking for the explosive play every time.
Here's the guy right here that did it.
That's it.
He did. Go ahead, Frank. This is Browns Nation. You're in a dog pound. AlumniMedia.com. Frank Stams, Leroy Horde, Mike Tomczak. We're talking about, being patient, running with the football. I used to hear Johnny Rowland tell this guy right here. Remember Walter Payton?
Of course.
He would tell the running backs, block her fast, runner smooth. And to your point, Leroy, sometimes the patience pays off.
It gives,
a lot of times in your career, and some of the great running backs, that cat out there in San Francisco.
Right. It gives
Cafferty.
It gives everybody a chance to do their job. Now, there'll be times where somebody misses a block. And what I would always say is, if an offensive lineman misses a block, I'm going to go out of my way to try to make yards. Because then he has the attitude of, I missed my block and dude still did something. So now I got to come through, right?
Yeah.
If, I hate running backs that they get a little penetration, they just collapse. Or they just, and so, patience does a lot of things. And people confuse patience with slow, right? No, because all the running backs that you have seen that have had success, they had that explosiveness through the hole whenever it came, right? And it always seems like the really fast running backs think they can just run up in there right away. And it looks awkward. And I think that's where Jerome Ford, and it almost seems like the Browns were trying to find running plays to make him patient. And the pin and pull kind of has him sitting behind that puller a little bit more, right? Giving that puller some space.
What's the and this is the thing about football, the schemes. Once we all recognize the schemes, what they're trying to accomplish, but the terminology changes from team to team. So, tell me what you guys mean. What's the action with the pin and pull?
So here, your tackle closes down, your guard pulls around the outside, right? When you think of a counter, the guard's pulling across the formation, right? When you think in pin and pull, that's all front side. So one guy closes down front side and the guy inside pulls around. Some teams do it with, believe it or not, some teams do it with a tight end and pull the guard and the tackle, right? And so there's a bunch of variations.
You have angles, Frank.
Right.
You have angles.
Yeah, I follow you. Pittsburgh. Yeah. Pittsburgh.
All you're trying to do is create. So say if normal defenses, you all have gap responsibilities, right? So everybody has A gap, B gap, and you want to hit those gaps. A pin and pull is going to create space in one of those gaps. Now, the running back has to be patient because sometimes that outside guy will see it and he'll close down too. And then you got to have room to go around that, right? And I've had guards that say, if that guy closes down real hard, I'm going to let him go. Now you got a guard out in space and you're following that guard, and that guy who closed down to blow up the play took himself out of the play. So it works hand in hand, and that's where patience comes in. That you got to be able to be far enough away from that to let all that happen, let your O-line work, and then hit it.
And Frank, the best way for a defense to defend that is not get pinned. Get penetration.
But that's what happens. Here's how these plays get blown up.
Don't let the first part of that equation happen, right?
Frank, because there's a lot of D linemen who are very explosive, right?
Oh, listen, man, I got pinned a ton because Pittsburgh would run that. Here's what they wouldn't necessarily pin me. So I'm playing over the tight end. What they would do is send the tight end down on the linebacker, and then they'd pull the guard and tackle.
Right.
Well, my action right away goes to the tight end.
Chasing the tight end.
It was hard. It was hard, because my shoulders would get a little turn, and then that tackle, they had guys that could run, and then that tackle's on me before I can adjust, and they can get to the outside, and that's a bitch. It was a bitch.
All you're doing with that is creating a space in the defense. So you're trying to mess with their integrity, the defensive integrity of protecting every gap. And the pin does that. And sometimes you get lucky because, just like you said, you see a guy close down, your immediate response is, I'm going to ride his shoulder.
Well, my immediate response is the action just initially takes me. And then all of a sudden now you read the rest because you've got the triangle. So what I was taught me as a linebacker, I'm reading the tight end, tackle, and the near back. So the tight end goes down. My first next action is I will actually turn, turns your shoulders a little bit. And now you're in a bad spot because now the tackle's got a little leverage on you coming to the outside. And now you're reading the downhill action to the back. And I tell you, man, it was a bitch.
Another way we deal with that, Frank, is that we put the back on the same side as you, right? We run that same action up front, but we would step in like we're going across the formation, right? And so you're automatically closing down. We get the ball and go back outside with the two pullers. You see what I mean? So
I know exactly what you mean.
There's a number of different ways you can do that because basically, here's the thing about football, folks need to understand. We know everybody's rules on the defense in a certain pass protection or run play. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to take those rules and use them to our advantage, whether it's in the pass game, whether it's a safety reading the seam, a single safety reading the seam, you want to look the safety off. He goes left, you hit the guy on the right. Whether it's cover two, right? You want to widen that safety to the left, and then you can hit that post to the right. You want to we all know everybody's rules. The same thing when defenses blitz. You know what our responsibilities are. And so that's why you disguise them. And it's just a cat and mouse game. But usually teams that have problems with what you're talking about, Frank, that's a long day. Because
it's a long day.
You get it wrong the first couple of times, and they start running variances off of that, and then play action off of that, and you basically just got one of them. You got two or three guys on defense just shaking their head, going, "What do I do?"
Well, and not only that, you're saying to yourself, this game can't get over fast enough because I'll be lucky if I don't get hurt in this game. So, Browns Nation, you are listening to In the Dog Pound with Leroy Horde, Mike Tomczak, Frank Stamms, Eric Metcalf, talking playoff football with the Cleveland Browns. First playoff appearance in God knows how many years. Fans, there is
2 years ago.
That? How many?
2.
No, it was longer than that.
19.
19? 4?
I think it was Stefanski's second year or first year. He had Baker Mayfield.
Okay. I tell you what, not for nothing. We've been talking about Kevin Stefanski for a long time. He's been a coach for a long time.
Yeah.
Right?
I apologize to Kevin Stefanski in the playoffs. It just feels like a very, very long time.
Well, Frank, we can't act like we win every year we was playing now.
Well, yeah, that's for sure. You're listening. You're listening to In the Dog Pound, found on alumnimedia.com, found everywhere where you find your favorite podcasts. Let's talk about this
Frank Ryan.
Huh?
Frank Ryan is a name in Cleveland Brown history. He was the first quarterback to take the Cleveland Browns to an NFL championship. That was 50 some years ago. I think it was 1958, I believe. And Frank recently just passed away. He was a math teacher, professor at Rice University. And after his playing career, I heard a lot of this stuff today because the Browns are hot right now, man. Yeah. I mean, people are pulling these historical things out, names from the past. He was there before Otto Graham and Ozzie Newsome and Bernie Kosar and Leroy Horde and Frank Stamms.
No, Frank Ryan wasn't. Frank Ryan wasn't there before Otto Graham. You're getting a little. The concussions are.
He was there before
Otto Graham
Jim Brown.
Otto Graham was the 40s. Yeah, he was before
Jim.
He was
Leroy,
before Jim
was
Brown.
He there with Leroy
well, that's why you're a lifelong Browns fan, Frank. You know more history than I do. I'm a Bears historian, but obviously you're right. You're right.
No, you just played longer and you're more concussed than I am. Let's talk about now the matchup right now as things stand is Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. Going to Jacksonville. There's an outside chance, if the Browns, survive the first round, that they could host a playoff game, but that's slim. But what do you guys think about going to Jacksonville? I know we've beaten them once already this year. What do you think about going back down there and playing them again?
I think the most important thing is pressure on that quarterback, whoever it is. They have a hell of a running game. Etienne is a very formidable running back. But if you get after their quarterback, whoever it is, right, it almost hamstrings their whole offense. And I can't explain it, but it's built around that quarterback. The screens, the play action, the run game is all built on his action to throw the football. And if you get after him and make them one-dimensional, or make it so, like, hey, Mike will tell you, you've played in games where you run play action and the coach will say, forget that damn fake. We ain't running the football. Right? Don't worry about the fake.
No.
And so if you get them in that situation, and that front four don't have to worry about the threat of running the football, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
It changes the game plan. I mean, you
It
can
changes
pin
the
your
game
ears
plan.
back and
Right.
And they were without their star wide receiver the first time they played when the Browns got after him. And Eric, is not joining us tonight, unfortunately, but he even emphasized that. He said they lost some speed on the outside. There was an oblique injury or something to this wide receiver he was talking about. But, to your point, Frank, once you get into playoffs, the team that controls the football controls the line of scrimmage. And what I saw on Thursday night from the Browns, they're starting to get to their daily half dozen. And we talk about, a dozen running plays down to a half dozen running plays. And they're starting to perfect, those plays, the pin and pull we talked about, the toss sweep, is one of their benchmark things, the draw on third down. So I think they're honing in. They're kind of trying to modify what's really going to be their assets going into a playoff game. And this week's not going to be any indication of what really works, what doesn't work. It's just letting the 16 minutes go, hopefully play with the lead, shorten the game and all that stuff. But, going into Jacksonville, guys, we haven't performed well. The Browns haven't performed well on the road. Right. I think they're 3-5 on the road. A couple games they probably should have won. That Seattle game and that Rams game, we both look at just most recently. And then the Indianapolis game, we pulled it out at the end, right, with a couple penalties and everything. So the bottom line is just win, baby. Just win. And I'm excited. I'm excited for this group to kind of mend some of their wounds, if you will, and get ready. And what is it? We're less than 10 days away, right? Almost 11 days away from a playoff game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm excited for the Browns and what this playoff game brings to them playing at Jacksonville. But yeah, I'm a little worried too because I think they match up pretty good with Jacksonville. I think they're similar type teams. I think the Browns style of play, I see it a little bit more of the old school in the NFL these days where it's, control, like Leroy's saying, control the line of scrimmage, beat them up, running game and all that. I don't really see a lot of pass happy teams aren't winning. Now I could be wrong. But the Browns are doing a little bit old school, with the ground game, play action, and then with Joe going over the top, the deep ball. So, but I am a little worried that they're on the road, and like you said, Mike, that they don't have. I mean, their record on the road this year not as good as it is at home. But hey, listen, they're in the playoffs, and if they play sound and don't turn the ball over, they'll be right there at the end of the game.
The thing I enjoy most about this playoffs, you can't tell me that the Browns can't compete with any other team that's in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that means you got a chance. Now, what that chance is, we don't know. But the excitement is that based on how this defense is played, based on how Joe Flacco has played, based on how they start running the ball recently, you feel good about whoever they may play against. And that in itself is one hell of a deal right there. So I can't wait.
Yeah. And this team has matured. This team has matured greatly throughout the season too.
Right.
Some of these young guys have grown up. Some of these young guys have became more accountable in their production and what value they bring to the team. And kudos to the whole organization from top down. And, sitting here at 11-5 right now, I don't know many people would have predicted that. I know Eric had him at, I think, 10-7? Maybe might have had him at 12-5, maybe. But
Yeah, well, I know
it,
I didn't have it at 11-5. And what a turnaround again. Going back to Stefanski, should be the coach of the year. This team was on a downward trajectory. They were getting worse every year. And the fact that he's turned it around with the adversity that went on this year, he stayed the course, under a heavy criticism at the beginning of the year. It's just nothing short of amazing that, that's where they are here, with one of the better records in the NFL.
It's interesting, guys. I'm looking at some notes from week 8. Week 8, the Browns were 4-3, heading to Seattle. They unfortunately lost that game to go to 4-4. Then they got on a run against Arizona, Baltimore, and the Steelers, and they got those winning ways back. They chalked off 4 victories in a row, and that's when I think they finally found their stride after that long road trip out to Seattle. And hopefully they can harvest that and resurrect it. Preparation week, getting into the playoffs.
You feel good that if you look around the league, what teams are playing the best football at the end of the year, and the Browns are one of those teams.
Agreed.
Right, and so from that standpoint, doesn't always mean it's going to work out, but the feelings right now and where we are today, you feel confident. Look, I put my little Browns helmet on my chest and hold my chest out and say, yeah, we got one. We got a squad. We got a good team.
To your point, Leroy, as well, the players that are going to take the field on Sunday, I've been in those situations where the game really wasn't, much to talk about. It's not going to change your position in the playoffs, and, backups get their opportunity. But those guys are professional too. Right. They're putting a game film out there to kind of continue their career, right? To justify why I should be on this 53-man roster. So I challenge those guys, who's ever performing on each side of the football and special teams, to come out there and give an A performance.
Okay, great note to end on. But the last thing we'd be terribly remiss if we didn't end the show on this note. Seeing the Maze M displayed proudly on our guy Leroy Horton's chest.
Hey.
Give us your prediction, and I know what it's going to be, but give us your breakdown of the national championship game with your guys against the Washington Huskies.
You have a tale of two opposites. You have a high-flying, high-scoring team, right, that protects the hell out of their quarterback and can run the football, but I think their running back's hurt, against a team that's ground and pound, play action, going to get after you, going to come after you as a quarterback and all that. And for my liking, I'm always going to go with the defense. I am. I just think that right now, Michigan is playing, you can go with the last 3 games. They're playing the best football in the country. Mm-hmm. And they have been. And that display of football, defensive football against Alabama, and what they did to that quarterback was something amazing to watch. Like, I never thought that was going to happen. You're going to sack that guy who's one of the fastest guys on the field 6 times. You're going to dominate that pro-ready offensive line with speed and quickness because they look slow. And guess what? Here's the funny thing about it. We watch football differently. And I'm watching this game. They put 4 strong and then creep the safety down on the weak side. And they didn't block him the whole game. I'm like, y'all better make some adjustments. And they never did. So they got out-coached.
Yeah. In a lot of areas, too, the performance, these guys were amped up. I mean, play after play and fundamentals, too. Fundamentals, Leroy. The big catches, number one, your receiver. I mean, he climbed the ladder on that big one for the big gain. And, your running back has been extremely strong and positive and everything. And go blue. I'm saying right now, go blue, baby.
I'm in.
I talked to Ed Moransky today, and he's all fired up. He was out at the Rose Bowl, and Big Ed's a strong supporter of Michigan football and good friend of mine. And, that's one reason, Leroy, I think I might have told you a while ago, but I grew up a Michigan fan. my dad sent a number of players to go play for Bo back in the 70s, and I became accustomed to watching that wing helmet and everything. And Rick Leach was a fan favorite of mine, and John Wangler. I got a chance to get to know him a little bit, but I'm pulling for them, baby. I'll be wearing my jersey. I'll be wearing the blue, whatever they're wearing.
Too. Even though my son goes to Ohio State, I'm pulling for the neighbors up north. Browns Nation, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Leroy. Browns Nation, thank you for joining us in this Week 18 preview. Look forward to seeing you again next week on alumnimedia.com.
Playoff week. We're talking playoffs.
In the dog pound with Leroy Horde, Mike Tomczak, Frank Sams, Eric Metcalf, signing off. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.